Hello and welcome to the live stream. Today I'm super excited to be sharing with you my initial impressions of the PodMic USB and also the Rode Streamer X as well. Yeah, I can't wait to get into all of this with you. I've been going through it all. I've only had it in my hands for a couple of days and just had the software, in fact, yesterday to be able to do some things with it. So it is still all very early, but I'm going to do my best to sort of go through all of the different features and functionality as I see them just so far, but just bear in mind that this is just an initial look at everything. But if you have got any questions, then do feel free to drop those in the chat as well, and I will do my best to answer those as well. So the Streamer X, I just want to mention, if you saw my initial reaction video to the announcement of the Streamer X, along with all the other Rode products at NAB, then you will know that I sort of had to produce a correction video shortly after, because I was a bit concerned that it might not be fully Mac compatible, just because of some of the wording in one of the releases that they had. Rest assured, it is completely Mac compatible, and I'll be going through exactly the differences in terms of how you can program it on the Mac and the PC there as well. So thanks everyone for hanging out in the chat. Great to see so many familiar faces and new faces as well. So yeah, definitely feel free to drop your questions in. So what are we talking about? Well, it is obviously the Streamer X, and it is, I think, going to be a really popular device, and certainly it's one that I can be recommending to a lot of people for specific use cases. And obviously the Rodecaster Pro 2, if you've been watching my channel or know me, you'll know what a big fan I am of the Rodecaster Pro 2. It's what I use for all of my live streaming, but also in my meetings in Zoom and things like that, and just for business use. It's a great device. But sometimes people want something that is a little bit more slimmed down, simpler, with some less functionality necessarily. If you don't need 4 mics going in, and if you're just looking for something that is going to give you an audio an audio interface, I should say, to take your mic into your computer, then the Streamer X has got that, but it's also got some other little tricks up its sleeve, because in addition to the XLR input that you've got on the back, there are actually 3 different ways that you can connect a microphone to it. So as well, as I say, as the XLR, if I just cover my eyes up, the focus will come into play there. So I've got an XLR cable going into the back, but you do also have the option to use one of the Rode wireless mics. Now, I will be getting a Rode wireless mic to try this all out, but I don't have one at the moment. However, you can connect this directly to the Rode Wireless Go's, or the Rode Wireless Go 2, I should say, and also the Rode Wireless Me will also pair with this. So that means you've got a just sort of direct connection without the need for a separate dongle. So, for example, the wireless mic that I was using with my Rodecaster was actually this one from Small Rig, and I was using that just because I quite like the case of it and so on. But I will definitely be getting the wireless Me to pair with this, because it eliminates the need to have basically the dongle here, or the connector, I should say, to take the XLR or the 3.5mm out of the wireless and go into the back of the Rodecaster. Or in this case, the Streamer X. So yeah, you basically don't need to get one of these little adapters to bring these wireless mics in, which I think is a great addition to it. Just sort of makes it a lot sort of easier to use. The other thing that they've got, though, on here is, as well as the sort of headphone jack here, which is going to my in-ear monitors, there is also a second connection on the back, which is, if I just bring this up, you can see there that next to that combo jack, the Neutrik combo jack, I'm never quite sure if I say that word right, but there you go. That's the one that can take basically either an XLR, literally just down below my picture at the moment, the XLR, but also the quarter-inch jack for bringing an instrument in. You'll see that just to the left of that is the headphone socket. That's the quarter-inch that I'm plugged into right now to be monitoring. But then just next to that, you'll see that there's one with a little headset symbol, and that is so that you can use a set of headphones that have a built-in headset. Much like the Rode NT, I forget the thing now, NTH100M is the variant of the Rode headset that actually has or headphones that has the headset attachment. So that means that basically you've got 3 different ways to use that, and that is going to appeal to different people. So depending on your use case. You know, some gamers I know like to wear the big over-the-ear things with the headset. Some people wear those on Zoom. Personally, I always think it looks a bit weird when you're on a Zoom call with somebody with a big set of cans on and their little boom arm, that sort of thing. But nevertheless, there are obviously lots of different use cases, and people like different things. So nice to have those 3 different options coming into the back of the device there. And the way that this works is really simple. So on the front here, you can see that you have got the input over this side, and it shows you here the little sort of indicator light tells me which one I'm currently using. So there, I'm currently using my mic. If I press this, my mic will go off for a second, but you'll see that it will sort of cycle through those different things. So the headset and the wireless and so on. So that just sort of cycles between those. So just basically pushing that button in will cycle between those. The dial then acts as your gain control, so that is how you can sort of increase or decrease the gain on your microphone by rotating that dial. What you've also then got on this side next to it is the monitor, so the headphone output. So this is adjusting the volume of your in-ear monitors or your headphones or whatever. This one as well, you can see it's got this nice little glowing neon around it, just as the others have. But what you'll see here is it's kind of like up at 50% at the moment. So that actually acts as a sort of display as to the level in your headphones. You can see as I turn it down, it's not doing anything for you, but for me, it's just turned the volume down in my headphones there. So that's just a nice little touch as well. And actually pressing that in will completely mute it. So that basically mutes it for me. You'll see that it's gone red. You can still hear it because it's only just muting what's going on in my ears, but you can see it's red, and then if I tap it again, then now I can hear everything again. Another couple of things that are nice on here is as well as the microphone here, so this would just there we go, that just mutes the microphone. But this one here also has something to basically turn off the camera. And that is the other little standout feature of this, is that as well as having the audio inputs that it's got, it is actually also a video capture card as well. It's really interesting. I mean, it's the first sort of foray, I guess, into the world of video from Rode. So I'm really interested to see where this goes further down the line. If I just bring up a little shot of the back once again, you'll be able to see there that you've got those 2 HDMI cables, and the input there is if you're going to bring a camera in, and it would work just like, you know, a Camlink 4K from Elgato, that kind of thing. But then you'll see there's that one that says through, and that means that you can use it to capture, you know, gameplay or things like that. You know, this is obviously something that gamers would tend to do, have their gameplay going through this into the screen so they can see what's going on, but it's still actually capturing that as it passes through there. It'd be really interesting to see where this goes further down the line. I would love to see one that has got the pass-through, but then also a secondary camera as well. And obviously there are different sort of camera switches and things you can get on the market, like the 8M Mini and all of those kind of things. So I'd be interested to see where this goes down the line. But personally, what I would love to see is that this, you know, would evolve in my future dream to actually have multiple camera inputs, but where rather than acting as a switcher itself, as a hardware switcher, it'd be able to pass through all of those different camera inputs into your computer. Not something that it does currently, but it would be just great to see in the future a device that makes that easier, that you can have multiple camera inputs, but if you're feeding it into something like Ecamm Live, you see all of those individual inputs. Anyway, just something that occurred to me as I was playing around with this. Yeah, in terms of the actual specs, though, of those throughputs there and the HDMI inputs, if I just come over to the spec sheet, I can just read those off to you to make sure that I'm getting those right. But here you can see that the max input resolution is 4K 60 frames per second, or 1080p at 240 frames per second. So, you know, this is obviously something that is important to gamers to make sure that they're getting that high frame rate pass through going to their screen. And then just note that the actual capture is going to be slightly different to that. So the capture resolution is 4K 30. So that means that you will be seeing, as it's passing through to that monitor, you'd be seeing the 4K 60, but it would be capturing 4K 30 and then up to the 1080p at 60 frames per second HDR or 120 frames per second there. So that is the sort of difference between, you know, what's able to be passed through it versus what it is actually capturing. So I mean, I've talked about the gamer side of things, but actually this is just like the perfect device for many people who want to just, you know, level up their Zoom calls and Teams meetings and things like that, want to have an audio interface that allows them to have a really sort of robust processing of the audio that's going into it, but then also combines it with the capture card, you know, to bring a camera in. I think it's going to prove really popular for that, and there's a lot of people I know that I would be recommending it to just on that basis, because it's a nice little neat all-in-one device. So I'll talk about the actual way that you adjust the audio processing and things like that in a little moment. But just carrying on with the features, as well as those HDMI connectors that you've got on the back. If I just come back to that little view of the back of it there. What you'll also see then is you've got two USB sockets on the back, 1 and 2. So 1 being the primary one that I've got currently running into my computer. By the way, I am speaking through this right now, just in case there was any doubt about that. So that is the USBs going into my computer. You've then got a secondary USB there that can be used to connect a second device, maybe a mobile or whatever you want to connect in there. Now, if you're coming from the world of RØDECaster and the RØDECaster Pro 2 in particular, then you'll know that there are sort of multiple USB channels on one of those channels. So in the RØDECaster Pro 2, you have 2 USB cables, but one of them actually has 2 separate USB channels. At the moment, this only has 1. I'm not going to make any predictions about the future, but you know, it's with it being a sort of software or I guess firmware update, could potentially add more in, but certainly that's not the case at the moment. So if you are coming from the RØDECaster Pro 2 and wondering whether those 2 connections give you 2 USB channels or more, at the moment it is 2. And then you've also got on the back there the USB that's coming in to bring the power in as well. There is also phantom power, by the way, just to cover off what that final little button is at the sort of top right there of the back. That is to toggle on phantom power if you're using usually a condenser microphone that would use that. Let me just double check if I'm doing with the chat. Just want to make sure if there's any questions. If you have got any questions, do drop them in the chat. Hi, Michael. About the cameras, I'll cover that off a little bit later. I could easily get myself sidelined by what cameras I'm using, so I'll just keep going with the this chat with the Rode stuff for the time being. But I'll circle back to the cameras towards the end. So those are the connectors. The other thing that you can obviously see there on the front of the device is obviously the buttons. So it's got the smart pads, much like you have on the RØDECaster Pro 2, and they do have the same functionality. So on the RØDECaster Pro 2, they introduced more functionality from the RØDECaster 1. So as well as being sound pads that you can use to trigger audio sound effects like this. That was a little bit loud, sorry. You can use the buttons to trigger that. You can also add in the various different voice effects. Not something I personally use a huge amount, but if you want to add in
your funny voice
and things like that, then you can do that with these as well. But what I would use them for is if you've got, you know, sort of music, I use it for the intro and outro for my podcast, for example, then that can be assigned to one of these to start playing that music. You can also add the other effects, and I'll go through this in more detail. I'm just kind of rattling through the specs to begin with, but you can add those effects, like for example ducking, so that's something that's in the RØDECaster Pro 2 as well, the ability to have it so that it basically ducks any other audio whilst you are talking, things like that. So and fading in and out music, that kind of thing. It also has MIDI controls as well, so you can control any MIDI devices on your computer, and then you can program that to do a whole host of things essentially. So if you did have some sort of MIDI controller on your programmable MIDI controller on your computer, then in theory, you could have this doing a whole host of stuff on your computer, in the same way that you do with the Stream Deck, pressing buttons to activate certain things. So at the moment, it's not at sort of Stream Deck level in terms of usability in that respect. However, just know that functionality is there. Now, there are multiple banks of buttons as well. So just as you've got with the Rodecaster Pro 2, you can sort of switch between different banks of buttons there to have sort of multiple pages of those. But there is a little secret hidden feature of this. Well, it's not secret, but it was secret to me, and it was quite unexpected, which is that they have built-in functionality to be able to control presentations with the smart pads. And I'll show you how to do that just in a moment in the Rode Central app. But essentially, you can use this for, going forward a slide, backwards a slide. And that is really telling that, the one bit of additional functionality that they've added in over and above all of the other stuff is the ability to, is to work with presentations. And it really speaks to the fact that, this is, okay, it's a streamer device. It's, it's got the word streamer in its name. But it is also, for professionals and people using these Rode devices for meetings, because, obviously the Rodecaster started out as a podcasting device, and then the Rodecaster Pro 2, there was an emphasis on it not just being for podcasting, but also for live streaming and musicians and things like that. But personally, all of the people that I've recommended them to have been using it for their Zoom meetings and Teams meetings and stuff like that to do the audio routing that is necessary for that. And this kind of really is testament to the fact that people are using it for things like that. So I'm really blown away actually by all of the things that it can do in such a small package. So let's have a look at how this works with the Rode Central app, because there are a few extra little things in there. You do get all of the same onboard processing, by the way, in terms of the the audio that we're familiar with the Rodecaster Pro 2. So they're Revolution preamps and low noise, high gain. So whereas with some mics, for example, the SM7B is notorious for needing something like a cloud lifter or a FET head, which is basically something that goes in line between the microphone and the audio device that you're routing it through to basically boost it. Whereas with the Rodecaster Pro 2, that wasn't necessary at all because of the high gain that it has, while still maintaining that sort of low noise floor there as well. And that's exactly the same that they've got in here. So all of that, those things that you are familiar with potentially with the Rodecaster Pro 2 are in here as well for that mic input that you have got. So let's take a look then at the Rode Central app and how it relates to this. Here you can see that, and by the way, I mentioned earlier about being fully Mac compatible, and the reason why I was a bit dubious about that when I first heard the announcement was that Ryan from Rode, who does all the Rode videos, he said something along the lines of, and you will be able to do advanced audio routing with Unify. And Unify is the Rode app that currently is only PC only, and that made me think, oh well, then does that mean that we can't do all of the advanced audio routing? Well, there's two things. Firstly, you can do much of the routing with Rode Central, but also the Unify app is coming to the Mac. So when the Streamer X is available, there will be Rode Central available on the there will be Unify, I should say, available on the Mac. So I'm really excited about that as well. That is, when I first saw Unify, let me just digress slightly, as often I do. When I first saw Unify come out, I was really super excited. And then I was disappointed when I realized, it was PC only at the time of release. And what Unify is basically a desktop mixer in effect. So here you can see it probably looks a little bit familiar, to Rodecaster users, where you've got these mix pads down here, or smart pads or whatever. And then you've also got the sort of different levels for various different things, various different sort of channels. So Rode Unify from this sort of Rode X line, I guess, is it was a really interesting product. And as I say, when it first was released, I was a little bit disappointed that it wasn't Mac only. In fact, when I saw the announcement, I kind of rushed to my computer to go and try it out, and then I realized it was at the time Mac only. But fortunately, it is coming to the Mac as well. So I am really pleased about that. But what I've been told is that you can use the Streamer X with Rode Central and also with Unify. And the difference between those two is that Unify is basically going to give you a little more control and is, a slightly more advanced app. So it may be that, some people who want to do some more advanced routing and things like that may want to use the Unify, whereas for the vast majority of people, the Rode Central app will do, all that they want to do. One little caveat or slight difference is that these three different inputs here, so where you've got this little encoder here to switch between them, and you can adjust the level independently, of each one. If you're using the Rode Central, then basically you can only use one of these at any particular time. However, with Unify, you will be able to have all three of those things going in at the same time, according to the spec sheet that I've been studying with great attention this morning. So let's go back then to the Rode Central after that little digression there. And here you can see, again, it looks familiar if you've been using the Rodecaster, similar sort of layout, similar sort of actions on here. And you can go into the audio setup, and you can see here that we have actually got something that looks a little bit similar to certainly the Unify software in some respects. It's got that sort of similar look to it. But what this is done here, or what they've done here with this, I should say, is that they've created these little sort of profiles almost of use cases that you may have for the Streamer X. So first of all, there is this streaming. Then here you can see you've got presentation. You've also got video call and also gaming and custom. And what that's doing is that's going to adjust these mixes in these different things. So let me just show you what this is doing. If I just toggle something on for a second, there we go. So what we've got here is you'll see that the mic input here, this is the headset input, and this is the wireless input from the Rode Wireless Go or the Rode Wireless Me. And what you'll notice is as I toggle between these on the actual device here, it will sort of switch those on the Rode Central. Or at least it might do if it was connected properly. Maybe not. But basically, that would sort of toggle between those three. You can see that there's two that are grayed out. I'm probably doing something wrong here. That's the joys of live streaming. But earlier when I was testing this out, then pressing the button on the Streamer X would basically toggle. You can see that there's only one of these highlighted. And that was that thing that I was talking earlier, that in the specs, it says that, you can only use one of those inputs for the mic at any given time with Rode Central. Whereas with Unify, you will have access to all three of those. Then over here, you've got the audio for the smart pads. You've got the audio for the HDMI. So if you've got HDMI plugged in, then that could be bringing your camera audio in. If you've got a mic on your camera, that could then, in theory, be coming in that way. Or it could be that if you've got HDMI coming out from, whatever gaming device it is, it could be the audio that is passing through there. So that's what that is. That is HDMI audio. And then you've got those two USB channels. So I mentioned that there is USB 1 and 2. So now what you can see then is just down at the bottom here, or in the middle here, you've got two different levels for each one. And there's two sort of faders. And this one here is your stream audio, effectively. So that's what's going to be going out to your streaming like right now. It's in fact, what you're hearing. So that's what's going out basically over the USB 1 channel. This one here, then, is what you're hearing in your ears, in your monitors. And the reason why you might have different things there, sometimes people want to be streaming. They may want to have, let's say, maybe a Discord coming in, and they want to be able to hear it, but they don't want that going out on the stream. Or it may be that they want the gameplay played at, for them, they might want to hear it at full volume and reduce the volume for, what is going out into the stream. And so you do have these independent controls over those on each individual sort of channel there. And I mentioned these presets down at the bottom. So basically streaming is going to give you just exactly the same. Everything is at unity. So it's just coming in at whatever level it's coming in at. And that's what it's going out at to the stream and also to your headphones. But then you've also got this presentation one here. And what this has done is it has dropped down the smart pads. So everything's exactly the same as for streaming, but it's drop down the smart pads, and that will make a lot more sense in a moment when I show you the presentation mode, because basically presentation mode kind of takes over the smart pads, so that rather than using them for audio and things like that, you're just using them to control your presentation. This will make sense in a moment when I get onto that section. Next is a video call, and you'll see that that's done some things over here. So first of all, it has dropped down the HDMI, and the reason for that is if you're using this with Zoom and your camera's coming into it, for example, and you've just got a mic going into the Streamer X, you've got your camera, and then that's for Zoom or Teams or whatever it is. Then you don't want your camera from your you don't necessarily want your microphone from your camera coming through. I mean, it might be that you've got your camera plugged into that. Sorry, it might be that you've got your microphone plugged into your camera, but obviously with the Streamer X, you naturally have it plugged into that instead. I mean, it may well be that for streaming, you may not be using the microphone on. You may not be using the pass-through. You may be streaming, just like I'm doing. I'm just live streaming with my camera. So in that case, you may want to adjust that one down as well, because for the same reason, you don't want the audio from your camera getting passed through. Then if we go back to that video call, though, what else it's done there, because the first thing that I thought of when I thought of using this as a device for Zoom is the whole mix minus thing, making sure that if you want to have good audio quality in Zoom, you really want to turn off all of Zoom's built-in processing, and that includes the echo cancellation as well. And so there's a whole series of settings for that. You can find a whole guide I did to Zoom settings, by the way, on my website, takeonetech.io. So I've got a whole thing in there about Zoom settings. However, if you're turning off all of their processing, you better be sure that you've got mix minus turned on. And mix minus basically means that when you've got audio coming in from Zoom and going back to Zoom, what you don't want to have happen is the audio from the Zoom participants is coming into your audio interface and then feeding straight back into Zoom, because everyone will say that they can hear echo or slapback. They can hear this kind of repetition of their own voices in the Zoom. Hear them back to them. And the annoying thing is that you wouldn't be able to hear it yourself. You're just hearing one instance of their voice, but they'd all be saying, oh, well, we can hear ourselves back, we can hear echo or slapback. So mix minus basically means that the audio that's coming in from that channel is not going back out. And if you look at what's happened here, when you switch to video call, they've effectively added in mix minus. It's not explicitly said that it is mix minus, but that is what is going on, because bear in mind that the USB 1 is the sort of primary output channel. That is the channel that all of these levels here with the little sort of speaker sound or signal sign there, that's the main mix. That's where it's going. So what they've done is the USB 1 channel has been kind of eliminated from itself. So all of these other channels are going out to USB 1, but they've just reduced that level there down to 0 on this video call preset. And so just know that although it doesn't specifically say mix minus, that is what that is. And it's great to see that that is, that's been implemented so that you don't get any of these issues. They've also reduced the USB 2 level here. It may be that you have got a second computer or something, or second device connected, and you do actually want that to feed in. So you could adjust this, but these are just sort of general presets. And then they've also got one here for gaming, which does a couple of other things. So here you can see it's just a preset that has reduced the HDMI, and then also that same thing for the input coming in, not to be sort of fed back again. So those are some great presets: streaming, presentation, video call, gaming. But then there is also this custom one where you can basically create whatever mix that you want. So it's great to see then that there isn't just a streaming device. It's called a Streamer X, but yeah, it could equally be Meeting X or Presentation X because they have got those different things covered. And as I say, it's just nice to see that they've sort of considered those different options. So that was all in the audio setup. There's another thing, though, that I should mention. I talked about all of the processing that there is on board, and we've got that same functionality as with the Rodecaster Pro 2. And we access that by clicking on the settings. And this will look familiar to Rodecaster users. We've got the input level here. We've got the phantom power. You can toggle that one on and off from here as well. If you're using that combo jack at the back for an instrument, so just what I'm talking about there is the little jack at the back. the XLR connector, I should say, that also can take a 1/4-inch jack as well. So if you've got a guitar or something like that you want to plug in, then you can plug that in too. Just notice though that, as I mentioned with the Rode Central, then technically only one of those inputs will work at a time, as I understand it currently. Whereas if you're using Unify, then you would have access to the other things. So you're only going to be able to plug either a guitar or a mic in to that socket, and if you were going to bring another mic in, you'd have to bring it in to one of those other ways. But nevertheless, I digress once again, as often I do. Here we go. We've got the input gain there, but the thing that is great is we have got all of the full suite of Aphex processing that we've got on the Rodecaster. So you've got the high-pass filter here, you've got the de-esser, the noise gate, the compressor, and then also the equalizer, the aural exciter, and with the comically named big bottom, and then you've got the panning left and right and so on. Incidentally, all of these things, what I found with the Rodecaster Pro 2 is that these devices are so accessible and so usable. They are, ultimately, consumer devices, but they're consumer devices with really sort of pro-end audio features. And what I, encountered with people that I was speaking to is, it's very easy to get them and set them up, but things like the, these things here where you're talking about noise gates and so on, these things are somewhat of a mystery sometimes to some people. So what do all of these different things mean? I mean, there's some words in there that I know some people maybe have never even heard of. Hysteresis, for example. Some people say, what on earth is that? So that is actually why I created my Rodecaster Pro 2 Masterclass. And it's all basically covers, I'm going to be updating this to cover all of the new Rode products. But the Masterclass was specifically designed actually to tackle this issue, because in it, I've got a section on advanced audio. There's 109 lessons in it altogether, but I talk about understanding noise gates, talking about all of those different terms, how to set these things up, and going through all of that advanced audio processing. So even in just the advanced audio, which covers off all of these things, I've got sort of 3 pages, so 20 odd 25 videos that are just covering all of these different terms and terminology, so that you know how to get the most out of it. Because it is a shame if somebody's got these really powerful tools at their disposal, but are not really sure how to adjust them. Now, I'll talk about the and you can find that, by the way, a link in the description to that. So I'll leave a link in the description to get to that, and you can also get access to that as part of my Take One Tech Academy as well at takeonetech.io/academy, where you get access to this and all of my other courses and learning resources as well for an ongoing subscription. So you can definitely check that out too. But I digress once again. All of these different controls that you've got here, as I say, are just mirroring what we've got on the Rodecaster. And what it means is you can really sort of dial in your sound, whatever mic you're using. I'm obviously running the PodMic through this right now. However, you can plug in any XLR mic that you may have and really optimize the audio from it. So yeah, great to see that we have got all of that. And once again, the Unify software, I'll be getting the beta of that shortly. And as soon as I do, I'll be making a video about that. I will obviously be making other videos. This is my initial impressions. I'll be making formal videos on all of these different aspects of setup and all of that kind of stuff in due course as well. Next up then, after the audio setup, oh, and by the way, I should just mention, before I forget, as well as being able to apply those to the main mic, you can also apply all of those settings to the headset and also to the Rode wireless mics that you can connect there as well. So next up, we have got the device configuration. This is basically just some device information. You can adjust the brightness on the buttons there, and that's about the extent of that. You can also come into here and you can change the outputs. So check for firmware as well, factory reset, and then you can also choose the monitor out. So that is where you want to send a monitor out in addition to what you're hearing in your headphones. So if we just come back to that setting there. Where was it? Whoops, a daisy, gone back too far. This monitor output, as well as going to the headphones, you can also have it going to that second location as well. Then you've got the smart pads, and once again, this is the same functionality as we've got on the Rodecaster Pro 2. So if you click here, you've got the sound pads, you've got multiple pages of pads there, and you can add in all of those different effects. So if you want to add reverb, echo, the megaphone, the robot sound, voice disguise, pitch shift, these kind of things, then that's what those are for. Personally, I don't use those voice effects too much, but nevertheless, it's good to see that they are there. Momentary and latching, by the way, just means that either you press and hold the button and it applies the effect, or latching means you press it to toggle it on and press it to toggle it off again. So that's what the effects are. Sounds, obviously, are the actually adding a sound to the sound pad. One thing I'd love to be able to see in this and the Rodecaster Pro 2 is to make it easier to sort of move these things around. So once you've got something, if you want to organize these, you can't currently drag and drop them. So I'd love to be able to see that, to be able to easily organize these if you need to sort of shuffle things around. It just sort of reduces the friction of updating it or changing things around. Then you've got the mixer effects. So if I just click on this, this is those things that I mentioned, for example, ducking. So what this means is it will just lower the volume of any background music or any other audio sources that you've got when you speak. So it's literally just the moment you start speaking, the other audio will just drop slightly, and then when you finish, it will drop. It will pop back up. Yeah, that's what ducking is. Then there is fade in and fade out. Here you can fade in and fade out your other audio. So for example, if you've got an intro track for your podcast maybe, and you want to just be able to press a button and it will just fade all of that out. And then here you might want to fade out absolutely everything at the end. Here you can see exclude microphone. So hopefully you can see what that means. If you were doing your intro, for example, fade out the music, but your microphone is still persistent and doesn't fade out. But then maybe at the end of your podcast, you just want everything to fade out. And so you want to, you don't want to exclude the microphone in that case. And then the censor button is just if you're going to be needing to self-censor with little beeps and so on, then you can do that there as well. And then there is the MIDI section, or the MIDI controls. I'm going to do a whole video on MIDI and how to use that to control things on your computer. And it could be that you're controlling your DAW, a digital audio workstation, or some other device. I mean, I use Ecamm Live, and there is a third-party software that allows you to control Ecamm with via MIDI. It's in fact called ELMC, Ecamm Live MIDI controller, and so you could literally be using this device to switch your scenes in Ecamm. So imagine that. You've literally got a video capture card, an audio interface, and potentially, switching scenes in Ecamm. And I tend to go a little bit overboard with my scenes and overlays and stuff in Ecamm in terms of just the quantity of them. However, for a more basic setup in Zoom, where you just want to be able to show your desktop, show your main camera, maybe another view or whatever, maybe activate some sort of overlay, then yeah, you could just be controlling that all with the Streamer X. So I'm going to make a full tutorial on ELMC and how to use that with the Streamer X as well. I think that this is going to be a really popular device in the Ecamm community, and I know there's lots of people that watch this that probably aren't using Ecamm Live, but for me it is the best live streaming and live production software that there is. And I've even recommended people who are on PC switch to Mac just to be able to use Ecamm Live, because it's so effortless to use and so easy to get something that looks really well produced and well put together. And in fact, all of my videos, this is obviously live, so there's no edits, but people still don't realize that my channel Take One Tech is called that because I do all of my videos in one take with no edits, and so I do all of that with Ecamm Live. So I highly recommend checking out Ecamm Live. You can find a link to that in the description. But yeah, the Streamer X and Ecamm, I think, is going to be a really great pairing. So that is the Rode Central app and the way that that looks. But the one button that I really want to highlight here is, check out this down here, presentation mode. Now, if you switch presentation mode on, what that does is it actually changes the colors on the dial. So if I toggle it on and off, like that, you'll see that there we've got the colored smart pads, but if it is switched on, then those all turn white. Now, that means that it is in presentation mode, so it's a little sort of a visual cue that you're in presentation mode. And if I click on the information here, you can see what this does. So it tells you about these other buttons here. So the mute that I've already mentioned and disable camera. But also here you can see you've got next slide, previous slide, close presentation, start presentation, blank slide, and blank white slide. So yeah, being able to just sort of, people will often switch to just a blank slide in the middle of a presentation while they're talking and then switch back and so on. So to be able to control all of that from here, now imagine that you're running a Zoom meeting with Ecamm Live and you're taking your presentation into Ecamm and then into Zoom so that you can make a really sort of immersive thing. You've really got some amazing capabilities here to be able to control your presentation. It does say as well here, you'll notice it says mode. And then if you look there, as I've set it to Keynote, obviously, because that's what I'm using on the Mac. But you can also choose PowerPoint, Google Slides on Mac, or Google Slides on Windows. So yeah, it's just really interesting that they've been very specific about understanding that this is equally as useful for presentations as well as streaming. It's certainly more than a streaming device, although technically isn't a Zoom call just a live stream. Anyway, I guess it is. So yeah, that is the Rode Central, and that sort of covers off the functionality with Rode Central for working with the Streamer X. I should say, just in case anybody missed it, and you definitely want to not miss out on this, one of the other devices that was announced at the time was the Rodecaster Duo, which is kind of a slimmed-down Rodecaster Pro 2. I'm not quite sure why they dropped the Pro from it, because as far as I can make out, the Rodecaster Duo is essentially a Rodecaster Pro 2, but just with a couple less of the the microphone inputs. But I'm actually running a giveaway for that right at the moment. And so you can check a link out for that in the description. This, I think, personally, is going to be my sort of primary device because I do things with, I do use the 3 USB inputs to do some audio routing with those. So yeah, this is probably going to become my sort of main daily driver, as it were. And then the Streamer X I will be using for actually using the pass-through to run a second computer into my primary computer, because when I am doing presentations and Zoom calls and things like that, I'll often run things on my second computer. And so using the Streamer X as a way to bring that into my main computer is just going to be really, really handy. And then also, as a travel device, the Streamer X is pretty awesome too. So definitely check out that giveaway, though. The draw will be at the end of this month. I think there's 2 weeks left to go. And then I'll be doing the draw actually on a live stream in 2 weeks from today, in fact. So there we go. So definitely check that out. Keely asked about the audio routing. So the audio routing, just to reiterate that, at the moment, the audio routing that we've got is here. If we go to audio setup in Rode Central, and what you can do is not so much routing, but you can adjust the individual levels. However, the more advanced routing features will come with the Unify software, and this is Rode Central, will come with Unify software, which is going to be released imminently and will be available with when the Rodecaster X, when the Streamer X is released, the Unify for Mac should be released, and I'll be getting a beta version of that to test shortly as well. So I'll do a full tutorial on all the routing things as well. So yeah, that is the Streamer X. The other thing that obviously I've got going into that at the moment is the PodMic USB, and this is another interesting product, and it is an evolution, I guess, of the original PodMic, which was XLR only. The thing that is different about this, though, is as well as the XLR, it does also have a USB-C socket on the back, so it means that you can actually use it directly into your computer. And it's got some great features. There is going to be an obvious comparison drawn between it and the MV7, and I'll talk about that and how I think they compare in a moment as well. I will just go through, though, and just check in with the chat before we get into this, just to make sure that I haven't missed any questions specifically about the Streamer X. So let me just type my little search in here. So let me just have a little look what this says. So your concern, Michael, is will this work with the CalDigit, I guess, TS4, because the Camlink tends not to work with the TS4 dock. I don't know. I've got this currently plugged into a CalDigit element hub, so that's what mine's going into right now, the Streamer X, rather than the CalDigit. I don't have one of those actually. I've got the Streamer X. Sorry, let me get my words straight. I've got the CalDigit element hub, which is what this is going into right now. Oh, thank you very much. Let me just take a moment. Tony Sniper Gaming, thank you very much for the super chat. Much appreciated, and glad you're finding it interesting and useful too. Thanks so much for the super chat. Much appreciated. My dock that I use though, Michael, is a Wavelink or Wavlink. Never know how to pronounce that one either. Wavelink, and that is one that I'm using because I've got multiple monitors plugged into my Mac. So that's what I use. So I don't know if there's any issue with TS4. I wouldn't necessarily imagine there is. We'll have to wait and see. Doc's got one as well on test. So Doc Rock, and I know that he uses the CalDigit, so he'll definitely be able to answer that. I wouldn't have thought there would be an issue, but we'll see. I haven't heard anything about Camlinks. Just going back to the question, I've not heard anything about Camlinks having issues with TS4 either. I know that there was some initial issues with the TS4 when it was released, with some connectivity issues. But yeah, I've not heard of that actually, so I don't know. Victor, hi Victor, great to see you here. Since this has the capture card and audio in one device, does this eliminate the need to add audio delay to sync, as some do when... Do you know what? That is a really interesting question. I would imagine that you would still have to do that manually because it does vary from one thing to another. So, although I don't know, that's a really great question. That's a really great question. I will find out about that. I'll make a note. It's a really good point, that is. I would imagine that it would still be something you'd have to adjust because it does vary from one thing to another, doesn't it? So I'll have to get back to that. I can't just think of the answer, and I certainly don't know the answer, so I'd just be guessing actually, Victor. But great question that. Jamie, hi Jamie, great to see you here as well. If this is someone's first equipment investment before mic and camera, and they were using wired earbuds with in-wire mic, what brand and model of wired earbuds has the best sounding mic? Oh, do you know what? I've got no idea on that, and the reason is I just never use I never use a in-wire mic because traditionally there hasn't been a device to do that. So I'm not sure. I like these KZ ZS10. You can find them at link in the description of the video, just as in-ear monitors. They're not by any means like really high end, but for what I'm doing live streaming, just wanting to monitor what's going on and also listen to in Zoom and things like that, they're fine. They do make these with a microphone, but I wouldn't necessarily say, I can't say whether the mic is any good on them or not. Obviously, Rode themselves have the NTH100. Is that the right number? The NTH100, and I think it is. And then the NTH100M is the variant that has got the mic. But then they're not in-ear monitors, are they? This is, a set of cans with a big boom mic attached. So yes. So sorry, I cannot be more help with that one, Jamie. Sorry for the noise. Sorry, I can't be more help with that one, Jamie. I'm not too sure about that specific question. And will I be doing an in-depth tutorial for Ecamm users and the Streamer X? You bet I will. So yes, definitely will. I'll be doing a whole series of videos really because there's so many different aspects to this. Using the Streamer X for just general Zoom, and it is a great device for that. I'll be doing a whole video talking about why I think that is great for that. I just think about the people that I have consultations with, and sometimes people have literally got they're coming sort of fresh with zero equipment, zero setup, and then I'm sort of talking about a list of potential gear that they might need, or creating an upgrade plan. But this is going to be really good for a lot of the people that I talk to, where they just want the audio interface part and the a capture card to get a decent image going into their meetings. So, but yeah, I'll be doing a whole series of videos on different use cases, and definitely one of those will be on Ecamm specifically for sure. Will the Streamer X work with Xbox or PS5 using audio effects with the console chat. I'm not sure what you mean by the console chat because I don't use Xbox or PS5. If that's something in the actual Xbox ecosystem or functionality or something in there, then I'm not sure. But certainly it will work with the Xbox or PS5 in order to bring the pass-through to go through into wherever it's playing. I'm not sure if there is a, if there is some way to feed stuff back into that, if it would work that way. I just don't quite understand the question because I'm a little bit ignorant when it comes to gaming. So if you got any questions about a ZX Spectrum, I'm your man. but when it comes to Xbox and PS5, I'm a little bit behind the times on those, I'm afraid. So yeah, not too sure about that. Okay, let me just crack on. I'll just see if there's any other questions in the chat that I may have missed. I want to say hello to everyone, but there's so many people that have popped in. Great to see you all here. Thanks so much for popping by. Let me see if... Greg. Yes, but will it blend? I won't be trying that one at all imminently. Michael D, can you use a webcam on the USB? I don't think so, no. You can have other input sources for audio, but I don't think that webcam work on the USB. No, I don't think so. I'm not going to say it couldn't in the future, but I don't think it does at the moment. Oh, thank you, Paul. The advanced audio processing section alone is worth the cost. He's talking about the Rodecaster Masterclass. Thank you very much. Your check is in the post. Oh, thank you very much, Tony Sniper Gaming. Thank you again, a second super chat. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. And if you've got any question, other than just to say thanks, then feel free to drop it in. I'll be happy to answer. So let's have a little look. Sky Reaper, I thought this was all stream mix, so this one doesn't have virtual channel in window. This is that thing where when I'm live streaming, I find that I either can't read or I can't process sentences. So if this is about the audio routing, and I might be completely getting a hash of this question here, but the stream audio is the one with the little symbol here that I'm hovering over, and then this one is the monitor mix, and that's what's going here. But also in the settings there is that monitor output as well, so that I think is also the one that goes to there. But in terms of more advanced audio routing, as I mentioned, I don't know if when this chat comes in, sometimes the chats come in and I've already addressed the issue, so sorry if I'm just catching up to this late. But yeah, there will be more advanced audio routing in Unify, which I haven't quite got my hands on just yet. But as soon as I do, I'll be discussing that more as well. And that's a very good point. Yes, Rich Graham, thank you very much for pointing that out. 44 watching and only 15 likes. That is shocking, isn't it? So if you are enjoying what you're seeing, don't forget to go and hit the like button and also subscribe, because if you're interested in these, then you can be sure that I will be making some more videos about all of this stuff in due course as well. Let me see if I've missed any other questions. So I think I've all caught up there. Oh, hi, Marine X. Are you currently delaying audio in Ecamm Live with this device? Your words match perfectly. Is it the device or Ecamm? Well, I'm actually not using the HDMI functionality for this video. And the reason is because I figured that I'm going to be switching back and forth between this and another device as well. So although the audio that you're hearing right now is indeed coming through here, sorry, I just put the wrong question up, but thanks again, Tony, for that. Yeah, so I'm not actually using the HDMI for this video. I will do a full review of that and everything, but yeah, I just wanted to make sure that, if I inadvertently pull the plug lifting it around, that my video doesn't drop out. So the audio sync will just be in Ecamm, and in fact I haven't adjusted it based on this device versus the Rodecaster Pro 2, so I haven't actually adjusted that. It is just all that's currently Ecamm, but I will do a full test of the video capabilities of the Rode Streamer X as well. And here we go, Michael. Great to see you here as well. TS4 fixed cam link and USB capture devices troubleshooting. Also, they've got a support article about that. Does the PodMic USB have a filter for plosives? So I'll come on to that in just a minute. Well, I digressed from PodMic, but we'll come straight onto that in a moment. If you're not using the extra USB-C for a mic, I wonder if Rode will allow it to act as a regular USB, such as hard drives or keyboard. I don't think keyboard, and I'm not sure about the hard drive. I know the other one you can hang a hard drive off it, so I don't know at the moment. No, but maybe in the future. So let me just come down here. Hey, Strick, great to see you here too. Sorry if I've missed anyone out. Just lots of names coming up. So, but thanks all for hanging out. So let's go on then to the PodMic. And the question that just came up was, does it have a pop filter? Well, it kind of does in two ways, actually. First of all, it actually has a kind of built-in pop filter in here, as I understand it. But then it's also got this, which is the windshield. And I actually really love this windshield. It's quite a novel design. And I will just draw a comparison with the MV7, which is the microphone that I got when I started my YouTube channel. And the reason why I got this microphone was because I love the fact that it did have the XLR input, but also a USB as well. So it meant that I could just get it and plug it straight into my computer. But then, you know, as my studio grows, as inevitably they do. So I started out with just this and a Stream Deck. And then slowly over time, things have evolved into 3 Stream Decks on my desk, 2 on the floor, the Rodecaster, a few more monitors, a few more teleprompters and things like that for monitoring my video. And things just tend to grow in our studios, don't they? And so one thing I loved about the MV7 was the fact that I could use it on USB to begin with, and it works really well. But then I could also use it with a device as well. It also means that it's a good kind of travel companion if you don't want to be taking your audio device or your audio interface, I should say, with you. But then you can just still take the mic with you. That is effectively what this does, because it too has the USB and XLR inputs on the back there. And I'll do a bit more of a comparison between it and the MV7 in a moment. But one of the things I love about this, and one of the things that I wasn't really keen on with the MV7, was the windshield, the filter. So when that is on there, this is the one that is designed for it. I always preferred the SM7B windshield, and that actually helped to reduce plosives, because you can see how it is actually significantly longer, well, an inch or so longer. And I felt that it looks better on the microphone anyway, and it also helped to reduce those plosives. And this just felt a little bit, I was going to say spongy then. It is obviously sponge, isn't it? But yeah, it didn't necessarily add to it, I thought. What I love about the PodMic is that, or the PodMic USB, is that they've designed this shield here, the windshield, to kind of emulate the design of it without the shield on. So I think it looks as good with or without this on, and this obviously just helps to reduce those plosives that you mentioned there even more. So let me just pause or mute the mic for a second. And yeah, so you can see the sort of aesthetic of it is very much, you know, similar whether you've got it on or off. And I actually prefer the look of it almost with it like this. So, so yes, it does indeed have a windshield. Was the question? Where did that go? That was a little bit further up, I think. I'll come back, Matthew, to the question about the capture card. I'll just keep going with the PodMic, and then I'll come back to any other further questions about either device towards the end. Otherwise, with my squirrel brain, I'll tend to sort of hop back and forth and never get anywhere. So what is interesting about the PodMic, though, is as well as it being an XLR mic, it is also USB. And what that means is you can also control all of the effects and things like that we've just looked at with the hardware devices. they've actually got a lot of that built in. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to switch over to USB now. So just bear with me for 1 second. There we go. There we go. Finally, you can hear me. Sorry about that. It just took a little bit of a while. I realized I was muted. It was I had to change my settings in Ecamm and also in my system as well. So there we go. You're now hearing me basically just through the PodMic. I'm not going through the Streamer X anymore. This is just the PodMic over USB. So tell me what you think. I mean, I've not done any really sort of dialing in of the audio or anything like that, but I'm just plugged straight in over USB now, and the delay with sorting that audio was on my side, nothing to do with this, just having to change through from Ecamm and so on. Yeah, then it's also got the monitor input on the back there, so that's where my in-ear monitors are now plugged into, and there is a little volume control, and I can probably show you a better view of that actually, that just gives you a much better view of what that looks like. So there you can see that the XLR cable is in the middle, then just to the right of that is the USB, right and above is the USB-C socket, and then to the left of that, just sort of hidden behind the view there, is the input, or the output I should say, for the in-ear monitors. And then there's a nice little brass wheel here, which is to adjust the volume that I'm hearing in my ears. So that's the way that it is structured in terms of the sort of ports on the back there. And what's great about this is that we do have some functionality, much like we had with the Rodecaster or with the Streamer X. So now in the Rode Central app, you'll see that I've got audio set up for the PodMic. Sorry, I've just seen your comment, Rich. Thanks for that. So here we can see that if we go into the audio settings for the PodMic, we've got the gain adjustment. We've also got the some of the processing, not quite all of the processing, but some of those processing features that we've got on the Rodecaster, on the Streamer X as well. So you do have a compressor. There's also the noise gate. There's also the high pass filter, the exciter, and the back to the compressor again. So we've got those different things that we can tune in, and I'm actually in the advanced processing. I'll come out of this in a moment, and we'll go into just some of the different presets that there are in here as well. I'll just bring in the MV7 again, and I'll talk about that because here, effectively, we've got onboard processing with the PodMic that we can adjust through Rode Central. Well, with the MV7, you can adjust processing and things like that with the Shure Motive app, and that gives you access to some functionality as well in terms of if you want to add more sort of richness, kind of similar to the big bottom, which adds that more richness in the lower tones, or more clarity and presence boost in with the higher end tones. There are some similar tools in the Shure Motive app that allows you to do that. I will say though that they're not as full featured as you've got in here with the PodMic. And the other thing, by the way, is you're setting these things in the Rode Central app, and it's going to set it on the device, but you don't need to have, you're not using this all of the time, so you can then go in and change settings for your other devices, and it is actually putting it onto the device itself, as with the Streamer X, as I understand it. But The one thing that I would say that this has that the Shure doesn't have, which I think is really useful and not to be underestimated, is the noise gate, because that isn't something that the MV7 had. And what I was doing when I was using this for, as I say, a year before getting the Rodecaster, the year that I was using this over USB, I was having to do something to knock out the background noise, because I've always got, I mean, I'm in the north of Thailand. It tends to be a little bit warm here. So I always have an aircon going on, an air conditioning unit going on in my studio. And so that audio would, that would always be coming through. And it is there in the background now. But what tends to happen is when somebody's speaking, you don't really notice those background noise. But as soon as somebody stops speaking, that's when those background noises really kind of jump out at you. And if I just sort of give you an example of this, I'll just come and turn off the noise gate. So this is the noise gate here. If I turn it off, then I'm hoping you can probably hear that background noise. I can certainly hear it in my monitors. And it's kind of the hum of the air conditioning unit. So being able to toggle on a noise gate and actually eliminate that, so that when I stop speaking, it goes away again, is actually really useful. And the same thing as well, which is kind of to help the same sort of issue, is with the where's it gone? The high pass filter. So I'll talk about these in a bit more detail because it is worth actually just going into this. The high pass filter, what that's doing is, if you think about the sort of audible spectrum, if you like, then your voice is going to be sitting in a certain range. Well, there are certain noises, like maybe the rumble of traffic noises outside your window, or maybe an air conditioning unit, that are going to be a different part of the audible spectrum. And what the high pass filter does is it knocks out some of those lower frequencies. And so here you don't have as much control over it as you do on the, for the Rodecaster and for the Streamer X. So you do just have this little simple toggle here to say whether you want it on or off. But nonetheless, what that's going to do is it's going to kind of like tail off some of those lower frequencies. So it just helps to reduce those background lower tones that aren't necessarily going to be enhancing your voice or your audio, and that you just don't want there really. So that's what a high pass filter does. Now, a noise gate, it's called a gate because think of it as something that can open and close, and it's to do with noise, obviously, being an audio device. And what this does is you've got this threshold, and that is the volume, basically, that this noise gate is going to be activated. And what it's going to do is it's either going to be open or it's going to shut. And the threshold is the point at which it's going to open. And the idea behind that is if I'm staying quiet, then the gate will be shut. And then if I reach a certain volume, or when I start speaking, you want it so that it comes on as soon as you start speaking, then the gate's going to open and let that audio through. But when I stop speaking, then the gate shuts again. And that's why everything sort of goes quiet when I stop speaking. So that's what the threshold is. Now, the attack is effectively when I go over that threshold, so when it detects my voice, how quickly is the gate going to swing open? That's essentially what that means. Then you've got the hold, which is, okay, I'm speaking, but then it drops down below that level. How long is it going to hold the gate open for before it decides, okay, he's stopped speaking now, let me shut the gate. Then the release is how quickly it's going to let the gate shut after that. Now, the range is how much it is going to shut the gate by. So if I was to turn this one all the way up here, and by the way, to control these, you just sort of click and then use your scroll wheel. If I turn that one all the way up to 100, or to 0, I should say, then that's basically not closing the gate at all. And there's no difference there between the gate being on or the gate being off, because the gate's not basically moving at all. So if that one there with it sort of full up to the top there at 0 dB, that's not applying any sort of, it's not cutting off any of the audio. And then you can scroll this all the way down. So sometimes you may want it so that it just basically reduces the background noise rather than cuts it off completely. Personally, I prefer to just have it cut it off completely, so the gate is completely shut, so that, when I'm in Discord, if I'm in Zoom or whatever, then I know that if I'm not speaking, there's none of my audio is coming through. Now, hysteresis is a bit of a weird one, but basically that is setting a level where you can have a different level for when the gate opens versus when the gate closes. So if you had that at 100%, then basically if you went above this threshold, the gate would open, and then if you drop down below that threshold, the gate would shut again. Well, at 35%, what that's going to do is it's going to put the point at which it closes at 35% of that amount, or that volume. So that means that, yeah, if you start talking, then it will pick up. But if your voice kind of, as it will do, naturally dips down or anything like that as you're speaking, then it's not actually going to even start to shut the gate until you reach that lower level. So that's just that's what the hysteresis means, basically. But so this noise gate is something then that is actually really useful in a USB mic, because it can really help with the background noise. Now, it's not doing any sort of AI. It's not like Crisp, for example, which will, even whilst you're speaking, will be removing that background noise. It's not doing that. The noise is still there in the background. But in many respects, you perhaps don't even want something that's going to be adding processing. So something like Crisp it does a really great job of removing background noise, even in the Creators podcast when we do our little thing at the beginning where we all clap just to get the audio in sync and stuff like that for Rich when he's editing. And yeah, when Keely is using Crisp, if she claps, then it literally, as even in mid-sentence, it will remove the clap sound. It is that good at removing background noise. So yeah, that's Crisp. Whereas what this is doing is, as I say, it's not removing the background noise. It's just deciding whether you want to sort of let that through or how much of it you want to let through when you are not speaking. So just as something that sets it apart from the Shure MV7, that is definitely one of those things. And when I was using the MV7 with the as USB for like a year, then I was using not Crisp at that time. I was using Audio Hijack to remove background noise so that I didn't have that fan noise. But actually, I prefer the sound of this rather than doing any of that processing. So yeah, great to see those different processing options in there for a USB mic, and I think it sounds great. And obviously, all of the processing that it's doing is the same things that it's doing on the Rodecaster. So I guess a lot of people are going to be more than happy with this for a long time without necessarily even needing an external interface. I've gone through the advanced processing here. If I toggle off the advanced features, so let me just reset all of that. So it's going to change the audio a little bit. But here they've got these, this is actually the default when you come in here. They've got these three different things where you can adjust depth. So that's going to adjust the, I guess, the sort of lower tones. It's actually adjusting all of those advanced features, but they've just combined these down into three simpler, a much simpler interface, I guess. So here you can adjust the depth, the sparkle, and the punch here, which are adjusting different aspects of the audio. But you can always adjust them here and then go in and sort of fine tune that back in the advanced section again. And I will just turn the noise gate on, move that one up a little bit. Move that one there, and then I'm just going to move this one down here because I like it to just go off when I am not talking. Move this one up a little bit like that. With the noise gate, sometimes you have to be a bit careful. If you've got the attack too low, or too high, I should say, in terms of the time, then you might find that it sort of clips the beginning of your words. And the same with the release. If it's sort of too aggressive, then some people find that, when their voice dips down, it will just chop off the end of their words and things. So once again, the Rodecaster Pro 2 Masterclass was intended to address these points so you have a better understanding of how to do these. I will be probably rebranding the Rodecaster Pro 2 Masterclass now that it does apply to these other devices as well, or maybe creating a sort of slightly different version of them to give this advanced audio coverage, for all these other devices as well. So yeah, really great that you can just adjust all of these things for this USB mic, really full featured. I've got to say, when I took it out of the box as well, just to do a bit more of a comparison between the MV7. And by the way, I love the MV7. I've been really happy with it. It's been kind of like a central thing in all of my videos. Everything else in the studio has changed around me if I did a time lapse of all of my videos. But the MV7 has been there like from the beginning, and I've been really happy with it. I've recommended it to lots of people. But there is, as I say, an obvious comparison to be made. And one of the comparisons is actually price point. Now, the PodMic USB is $199. The original PodMic was $99. And what I noticed was in the, after the announcement of it, I noticed a few people sort of pushing back a little bit on the price and saying, "Oh, I heard the figure. It should have been 147 or 149 or whatever." From a number of people, either in videos. I got the comment in my own videos that I made about them, where I mentioned the price of them. I got a couple of comments from there saying that, "Oh, I think it should have been 149 or whatever." And people have got this idea of what the price point should be. And obviously, I'm not going to say that I wouldn't love to reduce the cost of devices and things like that, and maintain the same quality. But I think to compare it to the PodMic, the original PodMic, is not the comparison to make. I think that this is the comparison to make. It's to the Shure MV7, and the Shure MV7 is 249, and this is 199. So actually, this is 80% of the cost of this one, and so I think that is more of a fair comparison, given all of the things that it's got on board. Once again, I'm not going to say that things shouldn't be lower cost. Everybody wants that, don't they? However, I just want to be clear about this is to me the kind of head-to-head that is going on here. And when I chose the MV7, there weren't really many options for this dual, USB and XLR connectivity. And certainly I've, as I say, been really happy with it. But one thing that struck me when I took the PodMic out of the box was it has got a really, really premium feel to it. And I never owned the PodMic, the original PodMic, by the way. So I'm not sure how it compares to that in terms of, look and feel and everything like that. I'm sure it's on a similar par. Thank you very much, Marine X. Thank you so much. That is much appreciated. Would you, let me just get to this question. Would you sell the MOTU M4 and 8M for the X? I'm not sure what the MOTU M4 is, and the 8M. I would definitely sell the 8M because I use Ecamm Live, and that therefore is not required. But the 8M and the Streamer X are not really comparable because not entirely comparable. The Streamer X is more like a capture card, effectively, whereas the 8M does a whole series of other things, like actually, multiple camera inputs, camera switching, recording on the device as well. If you're on the 8M ISO, then that does isolated recording and things like that. I've just never got on board with the 8M purely because I am a major Ecamm user. I find that Ecamm is the way for me. I did look at the 8M when I was looking at streaming options, and I went with the Ecamm because I just love the ease of use of it, and to be able to make different what's the word here? Different scenes and things like that. It was just a lot easier to do in Ecamm. And the thing about the 8M is that just gives one single feed into the computer. And so in Ecamm just sees the 8M as one single thing. And so you're then doing all the switching with the 8M rather than using the power of Ecamm. So that's why I prefer to have these things. And that's incidentally, I don't know if you caught at the beginning, what I said was this is kind of an initial step into the world of video for Rode, and I would love to see a multiple camera capture device, but that feeds in all of those feeds in all of those feeds into the computer. So you can do this with the Blackmagic design deck link. So Blackmagic, who make the 8M. I seem to be going off on a tangent here, but it should go somewhere. The Blackmagic design deck link, and essentially you have to put it in an external enclosure to use with a Mac, but it is a card that then allows you to plug in 4 HDMI cables for 4 different cameras or devices, and then that all goes into your computer over one single USB-C cable or Thunderbolt cable. So that means that then you've got one external device to capture all of your cameras, and then feeding those all into your computer over one cable, rather than having a whole bunch of cam links hanging off the back, which is what you need to do if you've got a device that's got a single capture input. So I'd love to see Rode develop more camera stuff. So that I'm a fan of Rode, as you might have gathered anyway, but to have multiple capture, be able to capture multiple devices, multiple cameras, but crucially feed those all into your computer and let things like Ecamm be doing the switching and things like that, or at least having that as an option, would be great. So let me go down. Sorry, I've just noticed David Hunt is saying muted. I don't think I'm muted. My levels all seem to be coming through right, but let me know if I am. Hey Doc, great to see you here. Mark of the Unicorn. MOT4 is an audio interface. I use it and the 8M Mini to stream But it's 1080p. Well, yeah, that's the other thing about the ATEM is it is 1080p. So I'm surprised that hasn't changed yet, to be honest. It is still, the ATEM is still 1080. And this is, you saw the specs earlier, but 4K 60 for input resolution, 4K 30 for, the video, and 1080p at up to 120 at capturing resolution. So, this has got the edge on it in terms of just a single input. My old computer couldn't handle multiple cam inputs. Let me just get to this question. But my Mac Studio can. I'm thinking of selling those for the X. I mean, the Rode X, the Streamer X is a single camera input. So there is that, you have just got one input essentially. So if you've got multiple cameras, you would still need other capture devices for it. But yeah, certainly the Studio can handle those levels of inputs. And I'll come back to the PodMic in a minute. We've got a few more questions. Does the Streamer X have a wireless Go receiver built in? If so, can you connect only one wireless Go or both? I think that it's one. I'll have to get back to you on that, but I think you can connect one wireless microphone to it. And the reason I think that is because you've got one basically gain control on it. And just to show that again, sorry if I'm jumping around a little bit, but the input here on the mic input, you've basically got these, where is it, wrong side? You've got these three little indicators here. If I cover my eyes, you'll be able to see it a bit better. You've got these three little indicators here. So that is the mic on the XLR mic. If I press it again, that would be the headset mic, and then I press it again, that is the wireless mic. So yeah, you can pair the wireless Go. I mentioned earlier, I'll be ordering one of the wireless Goes to actually pair with this and try it out, because I've not been able to do that yet. But yeah, you can certainly pair that with it, but I think that it would be only one. Would be my guess there, just because you are pairing. You're not pairing with the receiver to be able to receive anything that comes in. As far as I understand, you're pairing with the transmitter, and therefore, I would guess it's just one. But don't hold me to that. I'll have to test that out myself. So let's come down. Does this compete with the Wave XLR, and can this replace my Elgato Camlink? Yes and yes. I mean, it can actually, it effectively can replace both of those. So the Elgato Wave XLR is an interface that allows you to plug in an XLR microphone, and then it takes it into your computer over USB. Now, Elgato have got their Wavelink software, which is kind of similar to Unify in many respects. It allows you to do, sort of on computer audio routing. It enables you to do on computer audio processing, so adding things like compression and all that kind of stuff with the Wavelink software that you get access to by using the Wave XLR device. So the Rode Streamer X covers that off because it is a microphone input, more full featured in many respects, and then also you have got that audio routing with Unify. Then can that replace Elgato Camlink? Yes, again, because that's the thing about this, is it does include the capture card. So if you're using a Wave XLR and a single capture card, a Camlink, then yeah, this is basically that all in one with some other functionality like the smart pads and all of that kind of stuff that I've talked about as well. So it certainly can replace both of those devices. And in fact, it's probably worth just mentioning that, because one thing that I didn't mention, and sorry for the digression, I will get back to the PodMic in a moment, but since the questions have come up, and by the way, sorry, just quickly, Doc is clarifying Streamer X can only take one wireless mic. Yeah, I figured as much. So there you go. The Wave XLR, the Streamer X, I've got my little notes here. The Streamer X is $399. The Wave XLR is $139, and a Camlink is $99. So whilst this can technically replace those two devices, if you were to buy the XLR and a Camlink, then that would be $239 basically. Excuse me, $238 in fact. So this is more expensive than those two devices combined. However, you do get some added functionality like the ability to connect wirelessly for those wireless mics, like the headset mic that you can have going into it, and then also obviously the smart pads and stuff like that. So that's the extra things you're getting for that money. Now, I don't know in terms of the, I know there's been much made of the the preamps and things like that in the Rode devices that started in the Rodecaster Pro 2. These low noise, high gain preamps. I can't speak to the Elgato Wave. I should probably get one to try out to do a sort of comparison on that. So I can't speak to that. However, the onboard processing I think is going to be a lot more full featured on the Streamer X. Incidentally, talking about capture cards, we mentioned there the Camlink, which are $99. I just checked, which I think they've come down actually. I always thought they were $129 or something like that. So I don't know if they've come down recently or if it's just in B&H at the moment. When I checked, they were $99. So that's as of today. So if they've come down temporarily, then you might want to check those out. But there's also the HD60, so the Elgato HD60, and that actually gives you the pass-through capability, which the Streamer X does as well. So Camlink is obviously only one input, a direct in, whereas the HD60 is a pass-through, much like this Streamer X is. So the HD60 is around $200, $199. So if you were going to have a Wavelink, a Wave XLR and the HD60 for the pass-through, then that would be $339. So just sort of putting it into context, to get similar functionality with the pass-through, then $399 for the Streamer X. That is where the price point is. There's always going to be people who are saying, "Oh, I think it should be cheaper." So that's very easy to say, isn't it? And yeah, wouldn't we all love things cheaper? But I personally don't think the price point is too off. Did I say at the beginning that Rode sent me these for review? I hope I did, but if I didn't, then I'm saying it now. But I totally would have bought these for myself for review in any case. In fact, the giveaway that I'm doing as well, the Rodecaster Duo for me, I can't wait to get my hands on that and try that. But I immediately offered one of those as for my giveaway because that will also be another one of these devices that is perfect for a specific niche, but that's perhaps for a later live stream. But I hope that answers your question, David, probably more thoroughly than you in fact needed. Let me just come back to my questions. I think I've lost my point here a little bit. The MV7 has a feature where you can use it, getting back to the PodMic, when you can use it further away from your mouth, out of screen. How well does the Rode do when further away? Yeah, the Rode has, that is one thing. The Shure has got a preset, which is for if you're using it further away. The PodMic is going to work best when it is, 5 to 10 centimeters away. You can technically, do that yourself in the software. There isn't a preset to say, oh, it's further away. But it is just a case really of adjusting the gain. So, I could move it away from me over here. And then what I would need to do is, I guess, sorry for the noise there, just handling the microphone. I hate that sound, but sorry about that. But if I was to go in here, so no doubt I am a little bit quieter now. And I can't actually get it down and out of the way because I've got too many Stream Decks and things in front of me. But if it was... I'll just move myself away. You're always going to get a bit of room noise, and even the MV7, when you have it further away, still gives you that room noise as well. But technically, what I could do is I could just come in here and adjust the gain. So now all I'm doing is I've just cranked up the gain. It's further away. You will hear more of that background noise when I'm speaking because it's just picking up more of the room noise. And this could technically be out of shot. It's now. What is it? Like a foot away from my mouth, so I could have that just down below, and then people wouldn't see it if I didn't have my desk cluttered with Stream Decks and Rodecasters. You could technically do that just by boosting the gain, but no, it doesn't have the setting that you are talking about. And I know the setting that you mean there in the Unify software. I do think though that the other additional things that you get with using Rode Central versus the software, the Shure Motive app, I think that the added functionality that you get from that, specifically the noise gate, is one that is worth is worth considering there. So let's have a look at these other questions. The ATEM. I don't think we've got too many great things to say about ATEM. The ATEM is 1080 because the USB buses cannot move that much data. Can Streamer X run SM7B like the... Yeah, totally. It's got the same I don't want to say it's got exactly the same. I understand it's got the same preamp though. So yeah, technically it's got the same low noise, high gain Revolution preamp that will give you that same effect. And you've seen also how you've got all of those controls over things like compression and all of that kind of stuff. So technically, yes, I would think you would be able to get exactly the same, give or take, sound out of the Streamer X as you would out of the Rodecaster Pro 2. Give or take, because I understand it's the same preamp. The Streamer X can only be one at a time. You cannot connect two to a computer. If that is about the wireless, then yeah, the wireless, that's what I suspect as well. And with the microphones, there is only, if you're using Rode Central, then this button here toggles between which microphone you're using at the time. But however, with Unify, when Unify comes to the Mac, which will be in time for this being publicly released, I understand it, then that you can actually have use the wireless and the mic and the headset with Unify, but not with Rode Central. So yeah, really, I'm just really pleased that Unify is coming to the Mac. Streamer X can only take one wireless mic. Oh, I think I've gone back and I'm repeating some of these questions. Thanks for the clarification, Doc, though. Have you tested gaming like a PS5? I haven't, no. No, I haven't, because I don't do any gaming. I don't own a PS5 or an Xbox or anything like that. So no, I haven't tried that. What I'm going to be using the pass-through for is actually bringing in a second computer into my primary computer. So running a presentation on the second computer, then having the being able to see the slides, but then having them come through this into my computer. That's probably the way, or that is the way that I'm going to be using it. Oh, that's a really good point as well. Yeah, so just to thank Keely about the point about can this replace a Wave XLR and also a Camlink? Yeah, it can, and that is also obviously, as Keely says, hashtag Keely was right. Yeah, the benefit is you've only got one USB cable that's taking these things in. So there is always that, when it comes to these things, we've got so many different peripherals hanging off the back of our computers. In fact, even just to do this demo and plug in this over USB and also the Streamer X, I was having to make that decision of what do I unplug because I've now run out of ports. So yeah, that is a very good point, Keely, that the benefit of it as well is you've just got one cable going in with your mic and your capture card, and it means that if you've got it plugged into a laptop or something like that, then yeah, you can just sort of almost like docking it, I guess, just plug one thing in and then you're good to go. Definitely agree with that, Doc. Rode Elgato hands down in Bill's. Rode is greater than Elgato, hands down, in build quality and understanding of audio as a whole. Yeah, I'm going to do a whole video on I mentioned there the Elgato Wavelink app, which is going to be very similar to Unify, and it's not as polished, I would say. Let me just backtrack there. I've not used Unify on the Mac because I haven't got it yet. So I definitely haven't used that. But just the Wavelink app itself, I didn't find that as sort of intuitive as some of the other, as even some of the other Elgato stuff, indeed. But yeah, just bear in mind that Rode are obviously audio first, and then now they're going into video and all of this kind of stuff, whereas Elgato is more the other sort of peripherals and Stream Decks and stuff like that, going the other way, venturing it into audio. So can it do 4K 60 or capped at 30 frames per second? Just to answer that, I'll show you the actual sheet because we can get really sort of specific about this. So there is the capture resolution. That is what you're basically capturing to then put into your stream, wherever that may be. And you've got there 4K 30, so 2K 60, 1080p at 120 frames per second, or 1080p at 60 frames per second for HDR. Now that is basically what it's capturing. However, there is also the pass-through. So the maximum input resolution here is 4K 60. So to answer your question, Matthew, here, the question was, can it do 4K 60 or is it capped at 30? You can pass through 4K 60 to go to your monitor or whatever other device you're doing, but the actual capturing is going to be 4K 30. So if this is, I guess, more of an issue for sort of gamers where they want to maintain that sort of frame rate, but just know that the output is going to be at that slightly lower resolution there for the 4K one that you mentioned. So it's going to pass through a higher frame rate, and it's also got this, by the way, which is actually doesn't really mean a huge amount to me for what I'm doing, but variable refresh rate support, VRR, is also, I understand, something important to gamers as well. So not something that is something that's popped up on my radar, so to speak. So let me see. And I always do this. I answer a question and then I go down the list and find it's already been answered. So thanks, Doc, for clarifying that. What is a centimeter? Sorry, 5 to 10 centimeters, 2 to 4 inches. Sorry about that. The MV sound also sounds far better when closer. Oh, it does, yeah. So that thing about the MV7 and being able to use it further away, they're dynamic mics essentially, and they're always going to sound better, in close proximity. It's funny, I get so many coaching calls with people who say, like, they've been out, they've bought this thing, they've got the SM7B or something like that, and they say, I just don't understand why I don't sound great. And I'm like, I can't see the microphone. Where is it? And then, oh, hang on a minute, I'll get it. And it's like over the other side of their desk. And there is this proximity thing. They've got this cardioid polar pattern that basically is picking up the audio from in front of the thing, so it's good for off-axis rejection. It's not picking up stuff from behind it and stuff from the side. But yeah, you do need to be in that proximity of it, because as soon as you start moving away, you tend to pick up all the sort of room noise, and it doesn't sound as clear. So that is the same with the MV7 as it is with the PodMic as well. So let me have a look here at where we are. Eat the mic for proximity effect. I don't know what that's referring to now. I've lost track of where we are up to. Oh, sorry. You mean on the Streamer X? I got you. Sorry, Doc. Yeah, of course. So that was related to, for those following along at home, you mean that Rode is better at Elgato for audio because we're talking about the Rode Streamer X, of course, versus the Wave XLR. Of course, there you go. The joys of live streaming and having these simultaneous conversations going on in my head. So let me see. Are you going to put my Rodecaster Pro 2 in storage and only use the Streamer X with the Rode Duo? To be honest with you, I kind of probably am, because I really like the form factor of the Rodecaster Duo, and really I use 2 mic inputs essentially, and in fact now one of those mic inputs I would use for wireless, which I don't do that much anyway in any case, but now I could do that with the built-in wireless connection with the Rode Wireless Goes when I order those. And then the other thing that I do is I also route my system audio in. So what I'm likely going to be doing is I'm actually going to be routing some things through the Streamer X and some through the Duo, and then also using the Duo to capture the video from my second computer to bring it in. And the Duo for me, the Duo is kind of like the perfect device for me for what I do, with wanting to have a separate channel for Ecamm, a separate channel for Zoom, a separate channel for Discord, and Teams as well. But Teams would always go on. I never use Zoom and Teams at the same time. That would be crazy. So the Rodecaster Duo basically gives me all of the functionality that I would need. It doesn't have as many, and this is not I'll do a full review of the Duo in time as well. The Duo doesn't have as many smart pads, but to be honest, I don't use the smart pads too much. I only use them for occasional things. I don't necessarily need a bank of 8 of them for what I'm doing. I know everyone's different. So the Duo is kind of like the perfect device. And so very much so, as you suggest there, I'm going to probably be having the Duo and the Streamer X, and just save that bit of desk space, because it does all that I need. And certainly the people who are doing kind of advanced presentations where they want to be into Zoom, but they want to be bringing Ecamm in. They want to maybe be having like a back channel going. So if they're using Zoom ISO as well, having a Zoom ISO meeting with all of their sort of speakers in there, and then having their, you know, guests in the other Zoom, the Rodecaster Duo is going to be like the perfect thing for that. And I'll certainly be recommending the Duo to a lot more people than the Rodecaster Pro 2, just because of, for the people that I tend to work with, you know, the clients I have, the Duo or the Streamer X are going to be my two sort of go-tos for sure. Any qualifications for your Mac in regards to minimum requirement for handling the 4K recording for a Sony camera, for instance? I'm not too sure, to be honest. There you go. Doc has said it. A Mac from 2007, i7 or greater. There you go. I'll revert to the wisdom of Doc. Yeah. Let me have a quick look what this is saying. Yeah, the Mac Minis, I mean, the M1 Mac Minis, they solve a multitude of problems. And it always used to be that I would always look for the, you know, the sort of highest spec Mac I could get whenever I was getting a new Mac. But these days, you know, the M series Macs are just light years ahead of Intel at this point. And yeah, it's a... the Mac Minis are just were a sort of total game changer. Chris, what is the bit rate and sample rate? Let me come over to this because I'm not quite sure just offhand what that is, or what the figure is, I should say. So the let's see the actual bit rate there. Come down. These are some more specs in terms of the size of it and so on. I'm not sure of that just offhand. 24-bit and 48 kilohertz. So that's the specs. I think that answers that one exactly for a change, rather than me waffling around. So just coming back again then to some of the other features of this compared to the MV7, because I feel like I've just gone off on a tangent a couple of times, as I often do. I did just want to mention, you know, some other things about obviously the noise gate, the finer control that you have over the audio on this versus the MV7. And yeah, when I took this out of the box, I just found that they both feel like premium products. But I wasn't surprised. I wasn't expecting, I should say, the weight of this. It is really a chunky lump of metal, which really, you know, it gives you the impression of, you know, a solid, well-built premium product. Again, not that the MV7 didn't feel like that when I picked it up the first time, but when you hold the two of them in your hand, the MV7 is 560 grams. I didn't just guess that. I put them on a scales. And the PodMic USB is 900 grams. So this is 60% heavier than the MV7. Now, of course, that doesn't necessarily translate into quality or anything like that, you know, in terms of audio quality, but just give you a nice feeling to pick it up. On the other hand, you know, if you're using this as a portable device, well, this one's 60% heavier. But I just want to emphasize that, yeah, the sort of feeling of it out of the box, it certainly felt like a sort of premium product. I like the fact that all of the control is done. You know, we've got just a little a dial here to adjust the level in your headphones, and then all the other control is done on the in the Rode Central app. One of the things I wasn't really that taken by on the MV7 was the touch strip. I never really trusted it. It's got a mute button here. I never really trusted the mute button. The little strip here, if it was plugged in over USB, this would be all lit up, but you can adjust the gain by sort of sliding across the strip there. You can also tap a button, and then you can change the balance between your monitor and the audio coming back from the computer. So with both of these, by the way, I don't know if I'm emphasized that, but obviously over USB, it's both a microphone input, but also your system audio can come back through this as well. So if you were on a Zoom call, for example, and you've got this set as your microphone, you would also hear the Zoom participants in it. So it just shows up on your computer as, PodMic USB, or PodMic USB, and you set that as both your speaker and your microphone. So then you're hearing it just from your monitors plugged into the back. But yeah, that thing of adjusting the mix of those, I never really got used to the the strip there. And I always wondered if it was something that, you know, is just a potential sort of failure point on an otherwise really solid bit of hardware. And bear in mind that a mic, you know, when you buy a mic, they can last, you know, a lifetime. So many other things we're constantly upgrading, and, you know, things go out of date and obsolete. But mics tend to last, you know, almost the longest of any bit of studio gear, I guess. The other thing that I should mention, just as a slight other comparison, is one issue that was leveled against the MV7 was the fact that it uses micro USB for the connectors, and I'd never really had a particular issue with it, although I know a lot of people said, you know, it should be something like a USB-C. This is USB-C on both ends, you know, the cable that comes with it, so USB-C into the back, which is a more sturdy connector rather than the micro USB, although the Shure MV7 came with a micro USB to USB-C and micro USB to USB 3 or whatever it is, you know, the traditional style USB. And in fact, I did have one of those cables actually bent, so the actual connector, it's not as robust as USB-C, and the actual end of the connector ended up bending, and I had some audio issues with that. But fortunately, there was a second one in the box. It wasn't, fortunately, the socket as well in the MV7. It was just the cable. But yeah, USB-C I think is a better connector to be going with. Yeah, apart from that, they are very comparable. But this thing of the price point, just coming back to that, $199 versus $249. For me, if I was now, you know, had both of these in front of me and had to make a choice between, you know, I was looking for a USB mic for the same reasons when I bought this one, looking for something with that long-term, you know, upgradability or compatibility, I should say, with, you know, using it with XLR. I would have to recommend the PodMic at this point, just because of the difference in price point, the added functionality. That noise gate for me thing is just a you know, a standout feature. To be able to have that built into it is pretty amazing. There is something that they've both got in common though as well, which is that they can just also plug into your iPad. So if I were to plug this into my iPad, now I'm wondering how I'm going to do this. What I may need to do is, let me just pause my audio for a second. I'm going to actually switch back to my MV7. I'm going to switch my audio in Ecamm over to this one, which is Rodecaster Pro 2 main stereo. So now you're hearing me on the MV7 rather than the PodMic USB. What I also need to do is I need to unplug this, and I need to plug it into here. So hopefully I can hear myself on that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug the PodMic actually into my iPad. So just got another USB cable here. I'm going to plug that into the back and plug that into the iPad. And then, let me see, is it going to register? And then I've got a scene set up where I can share my iPad. So now what we're looking at is the Rode Central app on the iPad. Hopefully you can hear me okay. I've got to sort of remember which mic to speak into. There we go, that should be okay. Sorry about any noise. So the Rode Central app, though, on the iPad means that you do have some control over the audio on the PodMic when it is plugged into your iPad or iPhone, by the way. And when it is plugged in, it is a two-way audio device as well. So you can still have your headphones plugged into the back, and then your audio will be passing into your iPad, and then also coming obviously back into your earphones there as well. So yeah, to get much better audio quality on your iPad, you know, now you can be effectively podcasting from the iPad, which is pretty amazing. As I say, the Shure Motive app does something similar as well. And what you've got here, I'm showing it up to you, but you can obviously see it on the screen share here. You've got the gain, so that is a slider. I can move that around like that. Maybe I can just, if I get my iPad, if I get my my mouse, you'll be able to see where I'm pointing. If I use my mouse on my iPad, let me try that. There you go. You should be able to see that on the screen now. So yeah, if I was to tap on this slider, I can move the adjust the gain there. You've got that high pass filter here, and you don't have the same level of control over it as you do on the Rode Central app. But here you can see I can toggle the high pass filter on or off. You can also then toggle the noise gate on or off. It's just going to be at a fixed level. I don't know if this will change at all in the future, by the way. It may be that they add in the ability to do more, but currently this is what I'm seeing on my my iPad. Then you've got compression on or off, the aural exciter, and then also the big bottom. So that is the top end, and the big bottom being for the low end boost there. So that is the level of control that you've got over it. But once you have made those settings on your iPad, then yeah, this is an input-output device that you can use with other applications on your iPad, whether it's recording or streaming or whatever it is. Not that people stream that much from their iPad, maybe the wrong choice of words. But for I haven't tried it with Zoom. I'll have to do a test. As I say, I've got plenty more videos coming along about all of this stuff, so I will have a video about how to use this for Zoom and so on. I'll also do one all about the mobile. Let me just see where we're up to with the thing. Oh, you mentioned something there. I don't know if we're talking about it. PodMic OG was heavier. Was it? Okay. So, heavy. Right. Yeah. So I don't know what the comparison of the weight. It's the noise dampening. So it does translate. If you grab, it won't hear it. Yeah, the thing is, the MV7 is also seems to do a good. I'm not sure what they're doing, but one thing I note on the PodMic is, because I was immediately thinking like, right, well, where does this weight come from? And I guess they have got stuff going in. I'm sure Shure do a lot of great stuff inside as well, because obviously, it's Shure, so they're bound to. But one of the things I look at is when you look at the yoke on the PodMic. Let me just. Excuse me and take that comment down for a second just so you can see. When you look at the size of the yoke on these two, I mean, there's plenty of places where I can see that there is additional weight just even in the mounting. I mean, these screws here on the side, they're so chunky. And I think that, it's all metal construction. I think actually that those parts just there may be plastic, whereas these are metal on the MV7. But the yoke is definitely sort of a lot chunkier. One thing to mention as well is that it does have the dual size mount in the bottom here. So it's a 3/8 inch and 3/4. 3/8 is one size. I forget the other size now. 3/8 and 5/8 are the two sizes of mounting for microphones. So yeah. So you can use it on different sizes without needing an adapter. So yeah, there's a few places where there is like clearly added weight, but yeah, I'm sure there's a lot goes into it in just in the housing and stuff like that. It feels more substantial from that point of view. So yeah. And yeah, I've removed the wrong mic out of the way there. So I was forgetting which mic I was on. Yeah, those are my initial thoughts. If you've got any other questions or anything like that, let me just check and see if I've actually missed any, because the chat's been moving a little bit faster than usual for obvious reasons. Let me just stick a little Q colon in here and see where we're up to, if I've missed anything. Oh, Richard, sorry, I missed this. I wonder if that pop cover fits the original PodMic. I don't know what the dimensions are. As I said, I didn't own the original one, so I'm not sure what the exact size of the original PodMic is. I mean, it looks similar in terms of form factor. Doc can probably answer that question, I would think, because he's got the original and he's also got one of these in his hands as well. So Doc might be able to mention if this is the same, the same size and everything. And well, actually, the same diameter and length is the crucial one for this. I do really like this. I think it's a nice touch to have something other than just the foam on the top. I think it looks nice to have the same sort of design aesthetic. So let's just see if Doc has got an answer. I'll come back out of here. PodMic is 55mm bore. Okie dokie. Your mission, should you choose to accept it. Yeah, this looks to be the same then. So this is 55mm. So Doc's saying that it is 55mm for the PodMic. So yeah, it looks like it would be. Yeah. So yeah, there is that. Let me come back to the questions. I'm getting myself sidetracked again. Where are we up to again? Oh yeah, back to the in-wire earbud mics. I like to send them or recommend them to guests who do not have a mic at all. Any suggestions welcome? Yeah, I'm not very good at that because I don't have. There's none that I could recommend that I could say that I use. That I've used. So I don't have any actual recommendations for that, Jamie. Maybe someone else does. Maybe someone's mentioned it and I've just missed it. Can you see feature mounts for the X similar to Stream Deck to get it up off the deck? Oh, yeah, sorry. I should have mentioned that. It does actually have a mount in the bottom. Oh, in fact, I think Doc has already answered that, hasn't he? There we go again. I'm doing that thing again. But yeah, it does have a mount in the bottom in the same way that the Rodecaster Pro has the VESA mount and also the quarter-inch thread on the bottom there. Then this one has just the quarter-inch thread. So yeah, you could mount it on something. The Rodecaster Pro also has that VESA mount. I had that mounted on my Elgato Wave low-profile arm for a while, the Rodecaster. I felt that was a little bit probably over the weight, and I ended up getting something, and I've just got another one, in fact, which is... I've got another one in anticipation for the Rodecaster Duo. It's this really lightweight, or really low cost, I should say. It's not particularly lightweight. Really low cost, just monitor stand. And it's intended for, obviously, a monitor to give it a bit of a different angle or whatever. But it's actually perfect for the Rodecaster. And I think it's in my, if you go to takeonetech.shop, it will take you through to my Amazon store, and it's in there. But this is intended for a, for a monitor, but it works really well for the Rodecaster. So it's just got a VESA mount in it, but it means that you can have the Rodecaster mounted at any angle, but it still sits on the desk, but it just raises it off the desk. As I say, I did have it mounted on a like an arm, but I found that for the Rodecaster, because I just have it sitting just directly in front of me, if I switch over to a different camera, I have the Rodecaster just sitting over here, and I kind of want it sort of tucked back. I want to be able to get access to it. I don't have it hanging off to the side or anything. And so, yeah, these little stands just work great, and they're by about $20 or something like that. Yeah, this would be a bit overkill for the Streamer X, but certainly for the Rodecaster Duo, it's great for that. Yeah, so the Rodecaster Pro, I did have it on my the Elgato Wave arm off to the side, but I just found I was constantly bringing it forward and moving it back, whereas here, tucked into the desk, it just seems to work best. And then obviously, when I get the Duo, then it will make a bit more space, because the Duo is kind of, I guess, about 2/3 of the size from my estimation, so that would just sit in there nicely. Yeah, Tom Buck did a great video. I love Tom Buck's setup, his studio. I love his overall aesthetic of all of his setup, and yeah, the way he's got his Rodecaster sort of off to the side. It's almost like part of the look of his scene, isn't it? It looks great. Let me see. Yeah, don't go handling your new equipment with sticky barbecue hands, Duck. Oh, of course, Keeley, the mount option. So Keeley's got something that I really want, but I've got no need for, which is a rolling rig called Rickroll. That's basically a stand with monitors, a computer, her cameras, her lights, everything hanging off it, and it just looks awesome. I don't need one, but it would be. I just always think I would love to have that. But yeah, having this, you could just have a little arm, and then this could hang off it. So yeah, certainly could do that. Do you have any videos about my streaming setup? How are you routing your cameras? I do have if you go to my, I was going to say, if you go to my channel, you're on it right now. I've got a video which is, I think it's called 2023 Studio Setup or something. I'll probably do an update of it imminently with the new things that have been added. But just very quickly without going through everything, I'm running everything from a Mac Mini. We talked earlier about how great they are. So they are just running from a Mac Mini. I have got a MacBook, which is sitting over there, that I use when I'm also running like a presentation from a second computer, from that computer. Then I'm using a Sony ZV-E10 in front of me with a Sigma 30mm lens as my primary camera in front of me. I've got a 12-inch teleprompter in front that I'm using just to watch the output. I don't read off it, as you can tell. I wouldn't be waffling so much if I did. With a Lilliput 12-inch monitor into that teleprompter, so that's what I'm seeing the output from that. I've got a really low, lightweight portable monitor that Doc recommended, in fact, so the same one that he uses. And then I have got that one on an arm, so this one is kind of like free moving here, but that's what I use when I'm streaming. So I've got the chat on there, and my Ecamm Live controls and stuff like that. Then over on this side, I use oh, thanks Paul. Paul's just dropped the video in the chat. And then over this side, I use a Philips 43-inch 4K monitor. The reason why I like that is it is my primary monitor, so you might notice that I'm kind of sitting off to the side of my desk. So my streaming setup is like cranked over to the side of my desk here, but then when I'm working, I'm just sitting in front of this. So when I'm doing all the other stuff that I do during the day, I'll be looking at this screen. But what I like about having this screen, I've never been a fan of those ultra-wide screens, because I always found I was like looking left and right, and I also like that sort of vertical aspect that you get sometimes where you can have a monitor on its side. For me, this massive 43-inch monitor gives me the best of both worlds, because I can have something ultra wide screen down the bottom, or I can have something, you know, 3 columns that are 3 vertical columns. And the way that I've set this up is that I use Moom, which is a Mac app, to organize everything on my screen. And then what I've got is I kind of split the screen into 6 different zones. So you can see that I've got the RØDE Central app just over here. I've got the PDF that I've been referring to over here. I've got the web page over here, or a Safari browser. I've got some other stuff in this area, and I could have stuff in these different places. And then what I do with Ecamm is I just share those different places. So if I come over to here and I want to share this, I'm sharing that portion of the screen. Let me come back to that view again. Oh, Aubrey, thank you very much. You've, I guess that's renewed membership. Thanks so much for being a channel member. I always appreciate all of the support. And then I've got a scene that shares down this bottom corner as well. So that's now sharing that part of the screen. Hopefully this is all making sense. Then I've got another scene that shares that part, and so on. And so I've just set up these different scenes in Ecamm that share different portions of my screen. And so it means that when I'm doing stuff like this, I can have all of the things that I want to talk about open, and then just basically switch to whichever one that I want to show. I have also got another monitor there, which is kind of just out of view, but this is a vertical monitor. So this is whatever it is, 28-inch or whatever, vertical. And then while I'm working, I'll tend to have my my Discord, my calendar, mail, and stuff like that off onto to that side. In terms of the light, I'm using Nanlite Forza 60s. This one's got a 90cm softbox. This one is a 60cm softbox. All of the colored lights down there in the shelves are Nanlite Lito lights, and there's also one of those behind here as well. And then on the wall behind me, the colors are just coming from 2 Nanlite PavoTube 6Cs, and then there's also another couple that are shining onto the acoustic panels. They're kind of mounted on the wall that you can't see, but coming onto there. And then I've just got some generic strip lights that are going around my acoustic panels in the back, and that's what's giving that kind of glow in the back there. So the other cameras, though, the camera that you're seeing up here is an AVerMedia Cap 4K, not Cap 4K, that's their capture card, Live Streamer 4K. Might be getting the name wrong. I've got a Sony ZV-1, which is my top-down camera. So that's the one to show the mess on my desk. And then controlling all of this with 2 Stream Decks, 2 Stream Deck XLs rather, a Stream Deck Plus. I use the Stream Deck Plus because I use it to control some audio things. For example, interview mode in Ecamm Live, I can control the audio levels of each individual guest with the dials. I also use it for screen demos to zoom in and out of the screen. But primarily, I use the Stream Deck Plus to switch profiles on my other Stream Decks. So if I'm in a particular work mode, I'll press a button on here and it will change what is on those other 2 Stream Decks. These are what I'm using right now. So this is where I'm controlling my Ecamm Live as I press to go to the wrong scene, nudging the Stream Deck as I do. And then, yeah, this is where this is kind of like my primary video and streaming Stream Deck. This is for all the extra stuff. So like B-roll, for example, I've queued that all up on here. So if I want to show this one a little shot of the mic, I can click on that and it'll take me through to that scene. So I just have a whole series of different things set up in there, in that second Stream Deck. And then if I come back to this scene, back to the top down, and then various other things. So that is the setup. I also have my Stream Deck pedals down below as well, so I have those switching to scenes, so I can always get back to my main scene by clicking on my middle right foot pedal. So I've got 2 pedals down below as well. I've got an old camera over this side, which is my old Canon EOS 60D. I'm going to replace that with another Sony at some point as well, but I don't really use this side shot, so it seems a little bit pointless at the moment. And I do also have a, what is it? A Lilliput 7-inch thing, which is my original teleprompter. I've now got over here, so when I am looking over this way, I've got the teleprompter up there as well, and that is the DesView T3 teleprompter, which is a great one that fits on the top of the lens, or hangs off the front of the lens, I should say, with the Lilliput A7 monitor. But yeah, that was great for eye contact on Zoom if you're just talking with one person. But then when I was doing larger meetings and things like that, then having the 12-inch is better. And then now got to find the place for the Streamer X and the Rodecaster Duo and various other things as well. But in short, that is a quick rundown of my setup, and those, Doc, are kept in the garden. You're welcome, Matt. I'm glad you liked it. Where are the snacks? Well, it's funny actually you mentioned snacks, because I mentioned that Rode sent me the Streamer X and the PodMic obviously for review. They also sent a box which had a few other things in it. One of them was a nice bobble hat beanie that is going to be really useful in the tropics here in Thailand, but I will put it to good use. But there was also a whole load of traditional Aussie snacks and a jar of Vegemite as well. The Vegemite is as yet unopened, but the kids all quickly cleared out all of those Aussie snacks, and then they started asking, where can we get more of these? And it's like, okay, now I've suddenly got to find myself an import shop in Thailand to import the Aussie snacks, Tim Tams or whatever they're called, for the kids. So yes. So I'm not sure what this is referred to. I got a new one for you called Side Mirror. I'm not sure. Hey, the purple knobs they have. Oh, I see. They're supposed to be sending you some. Yep. So that one of the things about the Stream Deck Plus is it is customizable. So they're bringing out they've brought out a white version, and you can also change those little dials. Alas, my poor loop deck is gathering dust. The doorstop, as I call it. I do prefer the Elgato ecosystem. Let me see if I've missed anything else out. Hey, Hassan. You're in Australia, are you? I never realised. And I've never tried Vegemite. How does it taste? I haven't tried it yet. I've been given instructions. So when we got the package from Rode, by the way, they also sent me a whole load of XLR cables in all different colours, which are all currently sitting. I've got to say a big thank you to Rode, because it was a little bit like Christmas, I've got to say. But yeah, there's a whole series of XLR cables, all different lengths and colours over there as well. But as well as instructions for the devices and what we could post and when we could post videos, there was specific instructions about Vegemite as well. I'm told on toast with plenty of butter and use it sparingly, so don't go and spoon it on too thick. Is the trick as far as I've been told. So I'll have to report back on that one, Hassan. Let me have a little look. Yes, the snacks. It's all about the snacks. About the switch profile of Stream Deck with Stream Deck Plus. It's all you do is you use the same profile switch, Doc, but then there is the little drop down where you would normally switch to a specific profile. You can also then just go and select the Stream Deck as well. Let's just go on a little bit of a random digression. If I go onto here, this is the untidiest screen of all of my Stream Decks. But I don't mind. If I go to the Stream Deck actions, where are they? ECam at the top, of course. Stream Deck navigation, and then go to switch profile. So switch profile, you can choose the profile out of all of your profiles, but just here you've also got device, and it will default to current, but you can choose any one of your other stream decks. So then you can have it so that you press the button on one and it changes the profile on the other. But you can also do it as a multi-action. So because I've got 2 of the XLs and also 2 of the pedals, I'll have it that, if for Ecamm, for example, I want to have, stuff on all 4 of those devices, I just set up a multi-action that does multiple profile changes on all of those stream decks, like that. So yeah, that is what that one is. And Richard is just confirming that as well. Use it sparingly. Is that what it is? I didn't realize. I knew it was yeast extract. I didn't realize it was something left over from brewer's yeast. Interesting. I'll have to report back. Right, well, with that said, I've been rattling on for quite some time now. I think I've covered my initial thoughts pretty conclusively. In short, I'm impressed with both of them. And I'm really impressed with the PodMic. I never had the original PodMic, but the PodMic USB, the USB aspect of it, yeah, I think if I was doing the head-to-head, I'll have to do a proper audio test and switch the aircon off and all of that kind of stuff. But right now, if I was recommending one to somebody, it would probably be the PodMic USB at this early stage, a couple of days in, and the noise gate, I'll mention it again, having the noise gate on the USB mic and all of that added stuff is for me why I would recommend it to people for their Zoom calls, so that we don't hear their noisy air cons and all of that. And the Streamer X, yes, apart from my very initial shock when I first heard that it used Unify, and in my head I got it into my head that maybe that meant it wouldn't work with PC. It is exceeded my expectations, mainly because of the positioning of it. And just to very quickly just touch on this again, because it's not to be underestimated, the fact that in the Streamer X, in the audio setup, these presets, streaming, presentation, video calls, and gaming, I think that is just genius, because it's got these presets out of the box for these very clear use cases. And yeah, it's called a Streamer X, but it is an awesome presentation device, and for Ecamm users as well. It's going to be great for so many people that I work with that just want to use Ecamm to go into their Zoom meetings and to control their presentations with a single camera, sharing their screen in Ecamm. Job done. This is the device, isn't it? So yeah, really happy about it so far. I'll be making lots more content, so if you aren't already, don't forget to go and subscribe to the channel, of course, if you're watching this on the replay, or even if you're watching now. Any other questions though, if you do want to come and chat about it, then definitely check out the Discord as well. So you can join the Take One Tech community at takeonetech.io/family. In there's a whole section on Rodecaster, and you can bet I will be posting in there and discussing this. So if you've got any questions, that's a great place to get them answered. Of course, also in the chat and in the comments. But I always find that it's much better to have an actual conversation in Discord rather than in comments in YouTube, because it's hard to keep up with YouTube comments at the best of times. With that said, then, I want to thank you all for coming and hanging out. What I'll do is I'll leave a link to some of my other Rodecaster content over on the right-hand side, and also a playlist which will contain all of the videos all about the Streamer X as we go forward. Thanks a lot for being here. I'll catch you all later.